the prospects, the process, the goal, that goal, that higher self, once that individual reaches that higher self, which you are very, very close to, that's an understanding, because that higher self is your connection with the whole. So if you reach there, you're suddenly experiencing everything else, not as little self, but as a concept of what the whole is. That's what you achieve there, the conceptualization of the whole. And there, in that place, that's where what this place considers active and passive have to come together. They can't come together here. This place, see, smell, taste, hear, and feel. See, this place with 5 senses, see, smell, taste, hear, and feel, cannot exist without opposition. The objective is to keep the opposition a little closer together. You know, it'd be nice to remove the concept of violence from this place. You know, actual physical combat. This place would be a much nicer place without that concept, the whole concept. I mean, pull the whole thing out of it. You know, see,
yeah, but that comes back to if everybody knows what you're thinking and you know what everybody else is thinking, then conflict's going to be avoided a lot faster, and you shouldn't need to resort to violence.
Correct. If you know somebody's getting ready to rob you, you're walking down the street from here, and this person's walking down the street from there, and you can see it, and taste it, and smell it, and feel it. This person's going to, you know.
You can turn around and walk in the other direction.
Or across the street or something, you know. Now, if the person follows you across the street, they're obviously looking for an excuse to go to the car lot. In other words, you know, they need a new car. You know, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I
understand.
They deserve to die. They deserve to, because they're in your space, they're interfering with your balance. But other than that, violence is not acceptable.
Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of the love and light Zen Buddhist type of approach ignores the fact that, you know, it just says, you know, turn the other cheek, all of those sort of things. It ignores the fact that at some point, if you cross the road and they're still following you, you've got to do something about it.
Absolutely. If you're sitting at home, you have 2 children there, and let me see if I can find a beer. But you've got 2 children there, and someone.
Happy birthday, Aggie.
Wait till you see my birthday present.
Feels that it is after. You can't drink yet. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. But some person...
It won't be the first time I've drunk at 9 o'clock in the morning. So.
He starts at 7.
Aggie said I start at 7. But if you're sitting there at home and all of a sudden some asshole comes busting through your French doors, you got 2 kids in the house. What are you going to do? Say, oh no, this is not the right thing to do. You shouldn't do this. I mean,
yeah, please sit and meditate with us and think about your actions.
Right. It's so even in a state of absolute balance, your space is yours. I mean, you can stop anything that you don't enjoy from entering your space.
No, I understand. Obviously, at Mount Cluth we are in balance as one, and at Keitha we are in balance as one. but everything else between there has a positive and negative, or an active and passive.
Correct.
And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people may have attained some form of realization, but don't really have the full knowledge. So I've come to the conclusion that you need not only to zigzag or go straight through the middle as the Eastern people do, but you also need to explore those two pillars down both sides.
Correct. And this is what is going to happen is on the next pathway is they come back down through Saudi and they get the desire again. That's where suddenly both paths are going to take place at once. That's why it's so important for an individual truly seeking to become an adept to have some type of relationship with the opposite pole. That's what makes it easy. So they're sort of together and apart at the same time. This is what happens in the next manifestation. This coming week, see, and suddenly we went, oh, you got to see what we went and got. You know, Aggie talked about losing her wand. And I've been sitting there trying to find the right crystal, see, and I haven't been able to find them. So this morning, because it was her birthday, I went to Home Depot. I got this beautiful piece, 24 inches long, hard copper tubing.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, 5/8 inch. And I told myself, I says, you know, it's my lady's birthday. What am I worried about putting a couple of, you know, ringy-dink hippie do-good crystals in it for? I've got all these stones. I mean, I've got all these stones, right? So on this end here, now it's not, we still got to do the clay thing and bake it. So on this end here, the beautiful 20-carat amethyst.
Oh, that's lovely.
Pointing out, and there's 4 strands of sterling silver wire going all the way through and tied together that grab hold of this 19.5-carat heliodor.
19.5 carats?
19.5-carat heliodor on the other end. I've been working on that.
You better not piss her off.
Huh?
I said you better
that's
not
why
piss
he made
her
it.
off.
So
She might do something with that wand.
You know, and so then I got I see them 2 yellow and purple packets there. That's modeling clay.
Uh-huh.
So it'll be wrapped in yellow and purple, sort of spirally.
Uh-huh.
And then we bake it and all that. But this will be, if I had to pay regular price for the wand will have about $3,000 worth of rocks.
Oh my God. Wow.
Might as well do it, you know.
your questions.
Your questions?
No, I'm quite happy that we've got to go from 10 down to 1, but we've also got to cover all the positive and negative pillars.
Right. So you're going to do 22
and there's
packs.
about 80 million different versions of these on the internet.
Correct.
If you go to hermetics.com, which is where I've been lifting a lot of the Crowley and other texts
Right.
from, even the Golden Dawn doesn't have sun where you put sun.
Right.
And they've got, you know, and there's other ones that have got Empress down the bottom and whole load of rubbish.
Oh, yeah. It depends. Now, there's all kind of variation. It depends on what system you're following. One of the things you will run into, if the philosopher discussing it published after the 19th century, forget it. Okay? Stay 19th century and earlier. this entire New Age thing is become a bigger pain in the neck than an assistance. The human animal is very selfish and greedy if it is not applying itself to growth spiritually. So when they become aware of a concept, their mind starts conceiving of ways that they can capitalize on that concept. So back in the late 19th, early 20th century, there was a thing called a theosophical society, Madame Blavatsky.
Yep, heard of her.
Okay, now she had a pretty large group of people. One of them was this guy named Ledbetter. And now these people were basically minor adepts. A couple of them, like Blavatsky, were full adept. And they made books, particularly for the people that were trying to deal with theosophy versus philosophy. That's why they called it the Theosophical Society. Everything was involved with the concept of one. But there were many different paths, and there were many different authors. And this Ledbetter fellow wrote a very, very nice little treatise, maybe 120, 130 pages, on aura. He began the treatise with, I do not see or hear them yet, but I can smell them, taste them, and feel them. But then he went on to describe every aspect from other people in the Theosophical Society and stuff. Well, people have taken that book and republished it and left off his introduction. And then some individual found this little electromagnetic plate they could use, and instead of taking a photograph like this, they use a Polaroid, and you put your hand on it, and same thing they use in a lie detector and what like that. You're just your energy. They'd put on a thing, and they'd take a picture through that pad somehow, and there'd be all this glow about you. And they call that aura photography. And boy, they did real good at the psychic fairs for quite a while. Well, that came from Kirlian photography, which is nothing like that. And so you have these massive distortions that have been taking place for the last 60, 65 years. So that someone can get wealthy from it. Like the guy right up the road, a couple of 100 miles up the road from here, that did a sweat lodge with almost 100 people in it. 3 of them ended up dying. But, you know, they paid $10,000 a week to go there. They paid a piece. You know.
Wow, you can buy a pretty good sauna for 10 grand.
But then he got arrested for manslaughter when 3 people died. He took in $1 million that weekend. And he couldn't afford a $250,000 bond. And got a public defender. Do you see what I mean? I mean, he made $1 million. I mean,
Hey, I got a question.
okay, Aggie's got a question.
How do you move the fulcrum?
How do you move the fulcrum, is what she asked.
Give us an example.
Okay, you remember that, Carl? The fulcrum.
Yes, yep.
In other words, instead of doing more good to balance the bad, or doing less to balance the bad, you move the fulcrum. You see, you know, if the fulcrum is right in the center, then you have to have 10 pounds on each side. They have to be equivalent. But if you move the fulcrum, you can have a hell of a lot more on the short side than you got on the other side and still stay in balance. If you took a seesaw, just a big 10-foot plank, and you weigh, what, 180 pounds, Carl? And then you have your 25, 30 pound son, or 50 pound, on the other side of the board. By moving the fulcrum closer to you, you could still create an equal weight. His further distance out on that board is capable of balancing you just by bringing the fulcrum closer to self. So by bringing the fulcrum closer to self, by doing that, if you're consider yourself and would like to be a good person, you can have a hell of a lot more good than bad. You got this fulcrum thing. Now, if this little seesaw board is equal, and over here you got 10 pounds, over here to stop it from tilting, you have to have 10 pounds. Now, I don't remember the exact formula. So someone wants, they're like, wow, I prefer good to bad, or active to passive. You see what I mean? And they have a difficult time. We've just started this pathway on the tree of life. We got a hell of a long way to go. And it's like difficult to go. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ, if I want to do this, that means somebody else has got to do something equally negative. It makes it hard. That's not what Hermetics said. Hermetics, this aspect of really finding self, you're the fulcrum. Self is the goddamn fulcrum. And you move the fulcrum by removing judgment. So all of a sudden, you want to do 100 pounds with a good crap without creating 100 pounds over here. You move the fulcrum. I forget the exact formula, but there is a mathematical formula. I forget but all of a sudden, you're 100 pounds over here, it's still balancing that 10 pounds. You do not have to support war, aggression, or any of them concepts.
So the fulcrum is like control, right?
The fulcrum is self. The fulcrum is self. It's the ability to move self in order to achieve self.
Did you say that self is reality?
Self is reality within your perception. Sight, smell, taste, sound, and feel. That's all you are. If you can't see it, smell it, taste it, hear it, and feel it, it ain't in your space. If you can either see, smell, taste, hear, or feel, even just one of them, it's trying to get into your space.
Does that include auric?
No, I did not include telepathy and auric vision. They're part of the other space. You're allowed to protect your space. All you do is move the fulcrum a little closer to self. Now, How many 10-pound son of a bitches are going to attack 100 pounds?
Not physically.
Okay.
They tend to have a go at the emotional or spiritual go.
Okay, but it's the same there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm using a physical explanation to describe something very etheric. Move it towards self. That's why I say selfishness is good. But you got to use capital letters for the first four. Good. Self is good. Self's the only place you're going to make it from. So you pull it towards self. And it's not difficult.
Pull higher self towards little self?
I didn't say that.
I'm asking.
Did you hear Aggie? Aggie said,
yes.
She said, pull higher towards little. No, no. The fulcrum is the capital self. The fulcrum is the capital.
What's on the
You don't have to head for it. You absorb it. You bring it towards you. You're seeking it at the same time. You move it towards you, or allow it to move towards you. That's where you get into rough semantics.
So what's on the end of the teeter-totter?
What's on the end of the teeter-totter? Little self.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And the rest of the world. Little self and the rest of the world. There are virtually no individual circumstances where that fulcrum is in the middle. You see? You'd be a mongoloid idiot. You would just react to others. Okay? Now, if you react to others in a negative way or in a fearful way, if you're working from your first three chakras in response to others, you're the 10-pound and not the 100-pound. So there's a radical movement that has to take place. That means you're basically haven't developed the ability to love self yet. Once you do that, once you love self, that fulcrum starts moving towards you. You're accepting responsibility for self. You are totally accepting responsibility for self. When some of the diagrams we've drawn earlier, excuse me, I should say Aggie had drawn, instead of looking at that as that teeter-totter as a single plank, imagine the fulcrum as a point, round bottom and a point at top. Imagine it all coming up to a point. Just a point, and put a round plate on it. We're getting up past Tipperette now, but you put a round plate on it. You see, so everything has to be balanced everywhere. See, the 100-pound, 10-pound thing is pretty easy. I mean, that's straight mathematics. You start getting into a round thing on top and try to balance 3 different weights. So you're getting into some pretty advanced calculus, but it's still done. But that's actually what you're going to end up having to do. Everybody ain't on the other side of that seesaw. They're all over that round table. We have to bring that entire thing into self.
Does that not become infinite dimensions rather than a two-dimensional plate?
Aggie just asked if that became infinite dimensions instead of a two-dimensional plate. And I assure you the plate is finite.
Is it 2 dimensions?
It's 3-dimensional, but it's not 4. But it's finite.
Okay. So it's like a sphere.
I do not have the number for the exact population of the world. But one could say that there are approximately 7 billion dots or little weights on that plate. How many people are on the planet?
So it's 2 dimensions.
And the objection, 3 dimensional, the objection is to move that little fulcrum to where you end up directly in the center of all 7 billion of them bastards. You know, directly in the middle of it. Just me, me, me. And all me is interested in doing is being one with every one of them. And that's the precept.
But it is a dynamic concept because they're all moving.
Constantly.
And you have to,
and they're killing each other and having babies. You know what I mean? All of a sudden there's another one over here and 5 less over there. And it's a job. It's a job. It's called learning to remove judgments. It's a job. It's a job. The biggest job. It's the hardest job. It's a bastard. I mean, people get right to it and they all of a sudden everything's going right and stuff, and then boy, they make a judgment. It's like, what the fuck happened? Everything's out of whack. Wait, what the fuck is going on? It's a job.
So how would you define judgment then?
That's how would I
define judgment as opposed to making a choice? Because we make choices all the time. Doesn't necessarily mean they're judgment.
You have to judge all the time. You have to judge. You come to a goddamn street corner, are you going to go left or right? That's a judgment.
Yeah.
My boy's sick. Do I take him to the doctor or not? Is he sick enough? That's a judgment.
Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying? Everything, no matter, that's little self. Little self has to survive. What I'm trying to say, maybe this is the better description. Maybe you'll get my concept better this way. It's hard to pass some of these concepts in words. But, so, let's say that big self is the little pointed thing under the board. Little self is one of the things on top. It's one of the 7 billion. So big self keeps moving things around trying to get underneath little self, maybe. Or maybe little self is running around up top trying to get on top of big self. And if we can get them working in unison, so the big self is moving this and little self is running around up here, and it's like, you know, sometimes the big self is telling little self, hey, no, go a little this way, go a little that way, man, we almost got it, you see. You know.
Yep.
It's not hard to do, except for the fact that reality, which is what we see, smell, taste, hear, and feel, is so friggin' complex. So complex. And it gets more complex every day. You finally get rid of the desire and somebody invents a new iPhone. It just gets more complex. And so there's constant motion. And you got to be here. See, this is the bummer. This is the bummer thing. It ain't like you can get there and then you can go sit up in the goddamn clouds and wait for everybody else. It ain't like that. You have to be here. You see? So you pretty much got to keep moving. You know what I mean? It's so you go and you're coming back. You know, it's like, now, if you do a real good job, you might get to be a tree and take it easy for a while. And just provide shade to your chosen people. But you're going to be here. You're going to be here till it's all done. And what's nice is once the little guy on top and the big guy down bottom sort of line up, then the big guy down bottom and the little guy up top in communion to the point that during transition, you know, you get to pick your next place. So that's a little more pleasant. I mean, that's one of the advantages. You know, you get to go like, oh, I'd like to do that. Mm-hmm. Then all you got to do is talk your chosen parents into having a baby and proceed. But you're in charge. This little guy up here is just as in charge as this big thing down here that's moving around trying to find self, bringing it in. It's very complex, but it's really very simple.
I think I get that. I think the point there is if the big self is the fulcrum on the bottom, if that makes judgments, then it's moving to it's going to create an imbalance, and it's okay for the small self to have some judgments because it's got to make choices on the physical plane. But if we get rid of judgment at the higher self, then actually it all should come back and work together in some form of unison.
Until the unison takes place, though, higher self is constantly judging how to find you, too.
Yeah.
See, higher self cannot really exist within its totality, within the absoluteness of self, until it has you. He's missing that one little piece.
Yeah, so that bottom one at the bottom, until the connection's made, it's just guessing where you are.
Right,
and then you're getting that bit of wobble.
So you got that little wobble in that plate on the end of the stick.
Yeah, it's all quite easy, really, isn't it?
Hey, yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. It's just building that connection and getting it all working together properly.
And no matter how the hell you get there, it's the right way. Yeah. It don't matter how you get there. If you get there, you did it the right way. It's pretty cool.
It's like that worm on the hook. The fish eats it thinking he's getting dinner, and the fish becomes the dinner.
Just
Marcel, get you.
The Ouroboros. Just keep it going around.
So it's all very simple and very complicated at the same time. I'm looking forward to getting Aggie's version of the Tree of Life.
But she's been after me to let her make one, and I said yeah a few days ago, and she got the piece.
Fabulous.
So it will appear.
I will try and knock up a wand as well when I get a bit of time and see how we go with that.
Just use it. I told you on the thing. Just go out and just find a relatively straight stick about that long.
Yep.
But wouldn't a piece of copper
and then bark it and stuff. Yeah, but I mean it's
yeah. I've got to the barking and that. I just I want to do something else to it, but I'm not sure what that is yet.
Right. Yeah, but see, it's the energy you put in it that
yeah.
manifests your will.